Welcome back to our EV Van Challenge. We want to see if the Fiat E-Ducato and the Ford E-Transit are up to a proper day's work. Both had decent range on our ride around town, although the Ford got our vote thanks to a better cabin, superior tech and battery life.
It's got a 68 kilowatt-hour battery.
But the Fiat fought back in round 2 with a more usable load bay.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
See how much that is?
Yeah. 1-1 then, and time for our final test. Jason and Jimmy discovered in the last series EV vans can throw a bit of a wobbly when they're asked to cart some weight around.
Now hang on, that's flat to the floor. That's not accelerating now.
That's poor, eh?
Yeah.
So how will our vans react with a ton of sand in the back? That's around their maximum payload. And for that reason, I've kicked Karun out. He might be compact, but every kilo counts. We have chosen a route that's got a few hills, but nothing too silly. And with 280 Newton meters of torque in my Ducato, I think this should cope pretty well, even with the extra load on board.
280 Newton meters? I laugh in your face, BBH.
The Ford E-Transit is the most powerful electric van in the market today. And with 261 horsepower and 430 Newton meters of torque, it should absolutely smash any performance that the Fiat can put together. But with a ton of weight in the back, it'll be interesting to see just what the consumption numbers are like, because when we drove around earlier, actually it was pretty good, to be honest. It will dip. I'll be interested to see, just with the hills, what a difference that makes.
Karun, I might have 150 Newton meters of torque less than you and be lacking horsepower. But right now, I'm moving along quite nicely. I can barely notice that I've got a load on board. Honestly, it just feels a tiny, weeny bit heavier at the back than before. However, I've got a few issues elsewhere. The noise on these roads has definitely increased in the cabin. I can hear the suspension going over potholes, and I can definitely feel it as well. And another problem is looming on the horizon. Here comes a hill. Oh, crikey. I'm in eco mode. Oh, foot on the throttle. That is my foot flat on the throttle. It's not picking up very well. I'm going to switch modes to power mode. Into power mode, and this behaves very much like a normal petrol diesel van. In eco mode, acceleration is limited, but in power mode, it unleashes all of its grunt and top speed increases from 50 to 62 miles an hour. My range is going to be zapped pretty quickly, so I'm going to pop it back into eco ASAP.
I've yet to reach any hills, but I'm enjoying the ride of the E-Transit, which has finally ditched its ancient leaf spring suspension.
I have to say, on this bumpy B road I'm driving along, it's actually a pretty comfortable ride. And actually, I'm not even having to go to full throttle. I'm at maybe 40% on the throttle, and it's pretty effortlessly climbing up.
Okay, Karun, I get it. Your van is better on hills, but owning an EV isn't all about power. Both vehicles could save you as much as £13,000 in fuel over 95,000 miles, and an EV van could be 40% cheaper to service.
Let's talk warranties. Ford will give you 3 years or 60,000 miles, whichever comes first. But more importantly, when it comes to the electrical components, including the battery, you'll get 100,000 miles of warranty.
Which isn't as good as the Fiat, which gets a 5-year or 100,000 mile warranty and 5 years free roadside assistance. And the battery is warranted for 8 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes sooner. Our drive is now coming to an end. What Effect had a ton of sand done to our range. Empty, the Fiat had a 160-mile range, but loaded up, this dropped to 75. The Ford dropped from a 200-mile range to 122 miles. Important figures to bear in mind if you often carry heavy loads. So we think then that the Ford definitely won the first test. We
Yep.
found it more agreeable inside.
Yep.
This won the second test for different shapes and sizes to go in the back, and then you've won the third.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the Ford is £5,000 cheaper, it's got better range, and it's faster. So really, no-brainer.
Yeah. So do we think then that these vans have now become fit for purpose?
I think if Jimmy and Jason got back in these after seeing 2 years of development, they'd be really impressed.
So it's the mighty Ford which gets the prize for the van that's managed its transformation to electric power the best. If you decide to buy one, remember you aren't obliged to wear the same uniforms as us, unless you really want to.